Welcome to Between Two Lattes, an intimate interview series with respected leaders in lab utilization management. I'm your host, Jessie, joined by Jane Dickerson of
Hello.
Plugs.
You may recognize us from such productions as The Jane and Jessie Show.
We're delighted to be joined today by Dr. Carlos Jose Suarez from Stanford University Medical Center. Carlos, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here.
Welcome. We are so excited to have you back in sunny Seattle, as they say.
Kind of sunny.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
So let's just begin. We'll just start right in and understand a little bit more about you, your title, your role, your licensures, and accreditation.
Sure. So I'm an anatomic and clinical pathologist, so I specialize in molecular pathology. I work at Stanford University, where I'm co-director of a utilization management service called the Genetic and Genomic Testing Optimization Service.
Say that again.
Yeah, we said shortly genetic testing.
Genetic optimization.
Genetic optimization. Genetic testing optimization service.
Very shortly. We just abbreviate it as genetic
Right.
optimization.
Yeah, and GTOS, but
GTOS.
doesn't sound as good as plugs. But
We
anyway.
did not pay him to say that.
No. So, and I'm also assistant director of the molecular pathology lab.
That is quite a lot you have going on there.
Yeah,
Many, many hats.
but they're all related.
Do they know you're here?
Yeah, of course.
That's great. So your answers will be truthful to the best of your knowledge. So what would you characterize your relationship with UM?
Like on Facebook.
You know, are you an order of labs, a performer, a gatekeeper?
We would be a gatekeeper because I'm co-director of the service. But one thing that I want to point out is that our service is focused only on genetic and genomic testing. That's why the name. I mean, the full name is the one that I said first, but we just say Genetic Testing Optimization Service. Yeah, too long.
For short.
For short. Yeah, so we only focus on those two areas. We don't look at other types of tests. And I mean, there are multiple reasons for that. I mean, there was a necessity to cover those type of tests in the institution. And also we have specific training to do that.
Necessity for how?
Because those tests are very common and they are very expensive and sometimes could be abused.
What is the most aggravating type of error or behavior that you see?
So, one type of misorder that we see with relative frequency that is easily fixable is the redundant testing. So redundant testing happens when someone ordered multiple tests at the same time and they offered overlapping information. So an example would be someone orders exome sequencing and at the same time they ordered single gene sequencing where, and you look at the exome sequencing and then you realize that there is good coverage in the exome sequencing for that single gene. That's one example, but there are many other examples. And
So it's different than a duplicate.
yeah, it's different than the same test duplicated. And that one, as I said, is easily fixable because when you talk to the providers, in many cases there are knowledge gaps. They don't understand all the techniques or they don't understand the test completely. And once you explain, they're like, okay, this makes sense. So we should just focus on one of them, not all of them.
Tell us, because we'd love to hear, and I have them often, about a time when you've had a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And
Literally have never had that.
Really never?
No.
What can you teach us about that?
So I would say that
Should we role play?
no.
That's too
It would take too long.
post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, it would take too long because we said it back and forth. But one of the most difficult conversations that we have in our service are those related to controversial orders for newer and very comprehensive tests, such as exome sequencing and circulating tumor DNA. So those conversations are very difficult because in many cases, when they order the test, they are trying to use it for conditions in which the clinical utility is still questionable or controversial. One thing that we sometimes do to try to persuade them to maybe do something different is we make them aware of the financial liability associated with the test. we ask them
whose financial liability?
the patient's financial liability. So we ask them if they have actually had a conversation with the patient about the fact that they may end up paying a high copay or deductible, or even if the test get pre-authorized, it doesn't guarantee 100% that it's going to be covered.
Thousands
Right.
and thousands.
So we tell them, have you talked to your patient about this? And once you bring this up, then they start hesitating, and sometimes they say, maybe I don't really need this test right now. Maybe I should wait. And
Do you
it's
think, as a solution, it would work better if doctors got the bills?
directly, like a punishment,
Like a punishment. You ordered this test, insurance denied it,
You have to pay.
Carlos, everyone, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Now take us to your dream, your utopia, and share with us what you would do next if you could change anything. Eyes closed.
One thing that we are trying to do, and so the test, the review of genetic tests, once they come to the lab, is actually, we see it as a reactive activity. So what we want to do in reality is prevent it even before it happens. So there are two strategies that we are working on to actually prevent the disorders from happening. One is development of testing algorithms, and we really want to develop more of those, working together with the different services that order genetic tests. And associated with the testing algorithms, have more policies that are going to guide the clinicians in the process of decision making. In many cases, they actually like that. They want to have like specific ways to follow how to order the test and all that. So we would like to have more of that. And we also offered consultations for genetic testing. And once the clinicians, some clinicians in some groups, when they understand that we are trying to help them, they call us before they order the test.
Is it like an orderable thing, or is it just like a consult, like they email you, Carlos?
They call or email, and then we just give them our opinion, and sometimes it's like, maybe this patient should go to medical genetics. And when these consultations come from them and nobody's prompting it, they actually listen, because it's because they are asking for help. So in the best situation, we want to have more of those, because you're not going to be correcting a mistake that already happened where the blood has been already collected. You're preventing things proactively from the beginning. So
it's a good dream.
If only. All right, so could you please share a piece of advice for our tens of viewers? Tens.
Sure. So one
Maybe
thing.
15.
Could be, maybe 20. I don't know. We're getting kind of big.
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Thousands.
With you on this.
So one thing that is important to keep in mind when we are dealing with misorders and errors is that no one is intentionally trying to harm the patient. That they are doing it because sometimes they are lacking some pieces of information. So if we keep that in mind, then the interactions with the ordering providers and clinicians are going to be more productive, and it's not going to be as frustrating when we see them and see them repetitively multiple times. So I think that's something that we try to keep in mind, and in fact, in our service we try to call the misorders unintended misorders, because it's not someone intentionally trying to harm someone else or the patient. So it keeps you more focused on the educational activities that we can do.
Everyone just shows up to do their best.
Yeah. Semantics matter. Do you think they react better to that? Unintended. You didn't mean to do it. I'm just trying to be on your side.
Right, and it's also for us when we are having those conversations, because it is frustrating sometimes. Certain mistakes are like, really, why is this happening?
That's
But
what we
then-
call our inside voice,
Right.
and then your outside voice is really kind.
Right. But then when you
Speak
think
for
about
yourself.
but when you think about the fact that nobody's intentionally trying to do
Sure.
it, then it's like, okay, well, that's something that is going to help me look at this differently.
That is
That's
a
really
good,
sage.
Yeah,
Sage
I know, I'm gonna
advice.
right away for truly. All right, Carlos. So last question. Tell us, what is your superpower?
We will keep it secret.
Sure. So one thing that we all need when we are doing utilization management is patience, and I think I have some of that.
That's really important because patience is a virtue, and it's
And
really
we're all out of
important.
time. Thank you, Carlos, so much for coming. Until next time on the Jane and Jessie Show.